Advice Givers, episode 124. I am Eric Verdi, sitting here with Michelle Schaffer of the North Market Pop Shop here in downtown Frederick. I'm super excited, super stoked to have her back a second time. If you're listening to this on the audio format, you'll hear the audio portion. You can also jump over to YouTube, Facebook. Check us out. So we've got some great behind-the-scenes footage that you saw in the roll-up to here of the North Market Pop Shop. All 450 sodas that she has here. I am stoked to have Michelle Schaffer of the North Market Pop Shop. She was also episode 86 about a year ago. Episode 124, Frederick Advice Givers. How you doing today, Michelle?
So far, so good.
Thanks for meeting us this morning. I'm super stoked to have you guys. The first video podcast.
All right.
All right, so you can go back and listen to episode 86. But let's talk about you personally. Tell our audience about yourself. Give us a little background with Michelle.
Well, there's apparently a lot of years of background now as I've grown older. I used to be a biochemist. Not that it really goes away, per se, but I did a lot of years of studying all around the world, and I have been just trying to figure out life, just like everybody else, finding that there's just so much stuff out there that we could possibly try to do, that there's just so many opportunities to try something new, and that it's a great place, to take some risks and try something.
So biochemist. So where did you grow up? Where did you go to college?
I grew up in small town Minnesota.
Okay.
My dad was a Lutheran minister, and my mom was a minister's wife, which led us to lots of different places around Minnesota. And then I decided that I needed to get as far away from the winter as possible, so I moved to Portland, Oregon, and went to Reed College, a small liberal arts college out there in the west. And then I just never went back to Minnesota.
Okay.
I did travel all over the world, did my PhD in the UK at the University of Cambridge, and then I had a biotech job in Perth, Australia, which is about the furthest, most isolated city in the whole world, because it's just on the other side of Australia, and there's actually no real way to get from one side to the other. There's no road, there's only railroad.
Really?
And the outback, yeah. You can drive like 30 miles outside of Perth, and you hit the outback.
How long were you there?
I was there for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And then after doing my PhD abroad and going to live in Australia, I decided that it was kind of time that I needed to actually go back to the U.S.
Okay.
And I moved back to Portland because that was the place that I felt was more like home. And then I did a postdoc. And after my postdoc was done, I needed to figure out what I was going to do next. And so I took a scientist position at a small biotech here in Maryland. Maryland has a really up-and-coming sort of biotech area. And that biotech company is no longer around, because that is what happens with biotech companies. They come, they go, they either grow or they get swallowed up. And so after that, I was like, well, I think it's time. I think it's time to try something else. I'm looking in science. I'm a social scientist. I really want to actually share my ideas and things. And there's sort of, especially right now with getting grants and everything, there's a lot of cutthroat stuff. And so I was trying to get away from that and try something different, because I like people. I don't like to hide in the lab. I like to get out there and meet people and find out things and be part of a community. And so I decided that first I started with the Frederick taste tours.
Okay.
I was training to be a tour guide.
Right.
And then while I was doing that, I was in the pop shop in its old location. And I remember I turned to Sarah and I said, we need donuts. We need donuts in downtown. So I decided that I was going to figure out a cool donut recipe. Because apparently donuts and biochemistry are really not far removed from each other, doing some of the same things. You're growing yeast and making things happen. And so I came up with this really great vegan donut recipe, only to find out, of course, afterwards that there was a vegan donut place that was headed our way. So I decided that maybe I needed to try something a little different. But during the whole process, once I found my recipe, and then I decided where was I going to go. And I was at the time living here in Frederick, and the reason I moved to Frederick was because Frederick's downtown and Frederick's community is very much like a neighborhood in Portland that I lived in. So in Portland, there's tons of different neighborhoods, and so everything has like a different theme. And this downtown Frederick felt like that with the East, with the East Coast vibe, of course. But so I found an ad somewhere that says like sweet shop for a sweet price, and I figured out that it was the Pop Shop, and so I looked into purchasing it because the family that was running it had decided that they were no longer going to be able to help it grow. They were hoping their daughter, who was like I think 14 or 15 at the time, was going to take it over, and I was like, I don't. That's exactly when a daughter decides that she's not going to take it over.
Right.
Is when something like that, where the parents are like, you got to do this. Oh, definitely. So I bought it from them, and it was just a small little shop. Banks were telling me that it was a hobby, so they weren't ready to step in on helping out in any way. But we grew it from the little shop that it was into what it is.
So where was the prior location?
So we were just 2 doors over. I moved 10 feet and lost probably 100 customers, even with signs.
Really?
Oh yeah. And then I get people who come in and they're like, "Did you guys knock down a wall?" I'm like, "Yep, that happens a lot in downtown Frederick. They let you knock down walls." But it seems bigger, and so we definitely we expanded quite a lot.
So you were Minnesota, Portland, UK, Perth, biotech. So you settled on Frederick. Why? I mean, you've been all over the world, it seems like.
Well,
So give us a short story of why you settled on Frederick.
one of the reasons that I settled on Frederick was because my partner is here. So I came for a job, stayed for a boy.
Okay.
And so he also has a small business too, so we're 2 partners in sort of crime on like trying to keep our businesses afloat.
Awesome.
So
No pun intended.
no. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting challenge when you're both sort of struggling with some of the same things.
Right. Well, it's good to have each other to bounce stuff off of too.
Yes, because he actually, so I met him because he sells used science equipment. And I thought that was the coolest thing because I came from Portland. I love thrift stores. I was like, oh my gosh, I can just go in and actually touch the science equipment before I buy it, which you can't usually do when you're working in a lab. You just have to go through magazines or hope that someone, you order the right thing. So that was really cool. And so he's still, still doing that. And he was very supportive when he found out that I was going to be taking over the Pop Shop and trying to help it build.
Awesome. All right, so let's loosen it up here. 2 questions. What's the last big purchase that you splurged on either for yourself or your family?
So, the last big purchase that if I want to call it splurging, although I needed it, but some of the extras I didn't need. Last year around this time, I decided to buy a new car.
Okay.
I had a Scion XD, which is fantastic, and you can fit a surprising amount of sodas in it. I think about like 20 cases. But it was when I was taking too many trips to just move sodas from my warehouse to here. And so I was like, okay, I gotta get something a little bit bigger. But I was like, I don't really want a van. So I got myself a Subaru Outback.
Okay.
And it has heated seats, both in the front and in the back. And that was a little more than I was, and like you can see the side view mirrors allow you to like safely change lanes, and I can back up in downtown Frederick because it's got a camera. So I know that's probably not that much of a splurge, but my Scion didn't have any bells and whistles, so.
I'll take it. So what's a hobby or an interest that you could spend hours doing outside of work?
Wow, something I don't get to do quite as much as I like is I love to read really bad British crime novels.
Okay.
They're
Now,
pretty.
did that start when you were in the UK, or have you always liked doing that?
No, I've always liked the crime novels and things, but the really bad UK ones,
Okay.
I find to be quite refreshing to take up some time.
All right. So when you wake up in the morning, what's what's driving you to come into the pop shop every day? Like what's the why behind you?
Uh, a lot of it is actually due to both my employees and also my customers. I love that we can make people happy with just a scoop of ice cream right in someone's day. Even very grumpy people, it doesn't take long for them to come in and look at all the sodas, be wowed, and at the same time try our ice cream and just leave with a smile on their face. That's what we're really looking for. And my employees also love that same thing, and they love to be part of the pop shop, part of the growing of the pop shop. This year, I actually, some of my older employees finally moved on. I got to keep them way longer than I think I should have been able to keep them, and so now I have a new bunch of employees, and they're all really, really great. And that's what I mean, even in all the reviews that we have online and such, they're always about how one of my employees was awesome, telling them about a soda or telling a story, or that they didn't think they'd have such a fun time coming to the pop shop, but then they learned stuff.
Right.
So it was, that part is why, to keep everybody happy and to be part of the downtown Frederick community for sure. Because I'm part of the downtown Frederick partnership also.
Right.
I'm on their board, and so I get to really see what they're trying to do with the Main Street program, and it's a great amount of stuff. And so I get to go out there and sort of show the merchants what they're trying to do as a nonprofit to put Frederick on the map.
Okay. So what's one piece of advice that you would give a fellow business owner / entrepreneur that is just starting out, that could be a shortcut for them, that you've made it over that hurdle in your 4 years? 4 years.
4 years.
4 years of owning the North Market Pop Shop.
Well, don't be worried about what your books look like at the end of the first year. They should look scary. They should be scary. If it's perfect, then you might be scared that there's something else going on. One of the things that I've realized in just the past few years, because your first year you have a ton of energy, and you should use that.
Right.
You should use that all. When you have it, you should use it. And then as your energy starts to wane just a little bit, just make sure that when you have it, use it, and when you don't force it.
Okay.
Because you get real tired.
So on the flip side of that question, when you were starting out, if you could go back in time, what is a bad piece of advice that somebody gave you that now you're finding out is not true?
Well, I don't know for sure if it's a bad piece of advice, but that social media is free.
Okay.
Because while it may be free monetarily, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to just get it out there and to get your message across, and it's not just. I mean, as much as you want it to be just like, oh, I took a picture and I posted it, you really have to. There's a time investment that goes into it. If you know someone who's very, very good at it, you should probably take them on as soon as possible.
Right.
But
yeah, it's strategic content. You're not just putting content out there in the world. It's got to be strategic. It's got to be branding your business, branding what you do, branding your employees, helping move the overall marketing and branding forward. So I totally get that. So in the last 3 years, Michelle, what is one choice that you made that has led us to this interview today with the thriving North Market Pop Shop? Because I know whenever we're downtown, Anthony and Alex are like, "Can we go to the pop shop?" And I think Alex he got a gift card for his birthday, and every time we come in, he uses $2.99 or $2.75 or whatever it is for a soda here, and we love coming here. We love supporting local businesses. So what's one choice you've made that's led us to today?
Well, I think one of the biggest choices was just moving to my new location.
Okay.
That was huge. That dramatically increased our visibility and our traffic and just the ability to allow more people into the space all at
So
one
it was
time.
size.
Yeah.
This space is much bigger than two
by
doors down.
about 2.5 times.
Okay.
So, I mean, before we had a counter that 4 people could sit across while just a few people could sort of try to get in.
Okay.
When we had the food tour in there with 12 people, the place was packed.
Okay.
And so, people would be like, oh, I can't go in there. And we're like, it's only 12 people, but there was no space. And so I think, and it was a jump. Like it was a jump to here. We actually did everything really quickly. And it was quite smoothly because this place was already sort of set up as a sandwich shop beforehand. So there wasn't a lot of stuff we had to do with the space. But it was a little bit, it was a definite like jump in rent and overhead. And so it could, given what we had done in the other shop, although it felt like we had maxed at that space, that was definitely like, okay, we can do this. It's okay. It'll work. So.
All right, so 123, now 124 episodes into Frederick Advice Givers, I've found that I gain a great amount of knowledge by asking questions. So I want to, in this iteration of Advice Givers, flip the script and give you a chance to ask me a question, business, personal, whatever.
So my question is, I believe it was not long after my podcast actually aired that you basically got up and changed everything. So what led to you getting up and changing everything?
As far as
you started your own
business? Yeah. That's a great question. That's an awesome question. So, and Michelle is referring to my main business, which is real estate, correct? I had a partner for 14 years. She basically grew me in the business. She was and is still a lifelong friend of mine. We still remain close. She and I were partners. I cut my teeth with her. About a year and a half ago, we started having different visions for where a company could grow and how it could grow. And it was just a mutual separation in our business partnership. And that's, I had a short amount of time to get a new company up and running, and we did it, and we're just finishing up month 10, month 11. There's been, much like as a small business owner, there's been bumps along the way, and like you had said earlier, the one thing that I'm finding is that my employees don't work for me, I work for them. Like if my employees are happy, if my employees are running smoothly, then they take care of the clients. So my job is to make sure they're happy, they're fulfilled, they're doing what they can, because it shows to the public. So, great question. Great question. Follow up?
So then, my other question, and this is something that I deal with a lot, I actually work with much probably younger people than you might do when you're finding employees, but my question is, how are you finding these great employees that you're helping foster?
Awesome question. Sue Mart, our office manager, my executive assistant, whatever you want to call her, she came from the prior company with me. She actually worked with my wife prior. How I'm finding new people, they're attracted to what we put out content-wise. With a document approach or book. I'm not going to get into all that one. This podcast is not for that. They'll come to us, and then I'll see if there's a personal fit. Ultimately, we've got 6 employees now. We're all like family. If they're not coming in under the family umbrella, if we're not all getting along, that's the most important thing to me is the culture in the company. If somebody needs help, we help them. We don't say why or whatever. It's truly family. You get a call. You need help? Okay, what can I do to help you? If they can't buy into that culture, and we have turned down a few people to come into our company because I didn't think it was the right fit at the right time. So it's almost like a gut feel. You meet somebody, you put them on a trial period for 30 or 60 days, and if they perform, and more importantly, if they fit in, I can teach somebody to do X, Y, and Z. You can teach anybody to do X, Y, and Z, right? You can teach anybody to scoop ice cream, to make a hot dog here, to open a top on a soda, to ring a cash register. It's the person that you're hiring. You can teach a skill set. Make sense?
Yes, definitely.
All right, so let's finish up here. What failure or loss has helped mold you and set you up for success in the future and or today?
I don't know if I want to call them per se failures, but I guess that's
because life is not a linear progression, right?
Yeah.
Life is not a linear progression. You go up, you go down. What's been a bump in the road, or what's been a dip in your life, business, personal, that's led you to today?
Well, definitively sort of discovering that the culture between like the scientific lab where people are cutthroat and
Right.
not social. I think that there are definitely labs out there that have that great culture where they're fostering every employee and that everybody gets along and they share.
Right.
But it seems to be the like exception versus the rule, and so looking for that seemed to be even more difficult than just trying to get by.
Right.
So I think that it's sad. It's sad because I loved doing science and I loved the whole idea that one day I might cure cancer or at least make someone feel a little bit better.
Right.
But it was very difficult for me to be in the situation where I just felt like I was paranoid, like someone was trying to, just like
There wasn't what I was just talking about. There wasn't the team wasn't the team.
No. Yeah, so that's just that type of atmosphere. It's very difficult for me to thrive as a person.
Okay.
And so I just needed to try something different.
Okay. So where do you see yourself, Michelle, in the pop shop in 3 years and 10 years?
Well,
And it could be retired, it could be on an island, it could be wherever.
I think that we have the possibility of growing and expanding. So I think a lot of stuff is going to be about whether or not I can find some people who have the same mindset as me or looking to expand or try something new. And
Are you talking about other physical shops? Are you talking about online sales? What are you
both
talking
of
about?
those things.
Okay.
Both of those things, because of course online is growing immensely. This is supposed to be the first Christmas season where it's 50% online,
That's
which
surprised,
is an
right?
insane number for everybody that's got a brick and mortar shop.
Right.
So I mean that's all, but they're good at what they do. So can't deny that. But yeah, just hopefully finding. I want to sort of see if we can reach out and get some investors maybe, and see if we can branch out a little bit. Because I know there's a lot of shops that are doing something close, but not to this
Not on your scale. I mean, we're surrounded here by how many sodas?
About 480.
Okay, 480 different sodas from all over the world.
Yes.
Right.
Not as many from all over the world, but the U.S. is pretty well covered.
Okay.
Except that Maryland doesn't seem to do any sort of soda manufacturing yet. We're gonna that might be another thing we'll get into.
Okay, so I'm sitting here looking at your menu. Over 450 sodas. Tell us about these hot dogs that I've heard so much about.
Oh yes, our hot dogs. Well, we have an all beef hot dog, and we use this sauce that's from Custard Stand, which is in West Virginia. They actually were on Shark Tank this last year and a half ago, I think, for their sort of. It was. I don't think that they were really looking to get money, but I think they were getting some recognition. It was supposed to be Shark Tank, small town.
Right.
And so they were getting some recognition for their hot dog chili. And so that's sort of been the base of our whole thing. But then the whole idea is that you, just like everything else, just like our ice cream or our floats or our hot chocolate, that we have lots of toppings that we add on and make everything look really pretty. It's so much, it's a good visual aspect of it, having great food and having it look amazing. So that's, we make, if our hot dogs have to go out looking good.
Right.
That's one of the requirements. You can't just squirt any ketchup or mustard on there. We try to make. So
there's a scientific process.
Yes,
a scientific process to how you do your hot dogs.
Yes, of course. It's got to look pretty.
Right.
It's got to look pretty and yummy because it's a hot dog still.
Right.
You got to make them. Got to dress it up a little bit. So that's our. We have a lot of regulars who come back, and we do vegetarian and vegan options too.
Okay.
We have a vegan sloppy joe that we add to veggie dogs also, so you can get even if you're not a meat eater, you can get sort of the same effect.
Okay.
We got some regulars that really like that.
Awesome. So where are we sitting now? How do our viewers, our listeners find you? What are your hours, your normal hours? I know we're in the holiday season right now. This will be aired after the first of the year. So what are your normal hours and where are we located?
So we're located at 241 North Market Street, so in between 2nd and 3rd Street on the left-hand side as you're coming down through Market. And our hours are 11 a.m. to either 8, 9, or 10 throughout the week. So Sunday and Monday we close at 8 to get a little breather, and then 9 until Thursday, and then 10 on the weekends. We get a lot of people that come in right away, like late. So we're kind of happy to be part of that because everybody eats kind of late at all of our restaurants.
I mean, every time I've been here, it's probably, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's almost a younger clientele. Is what I see. I'll see kids coming in after school. I'll see, one time I was in, I saw, probably a high school kid that brought in 3 elementary school kids that she was babysitting in the pop shop. So what's your clientele?
We actually have a really wide variety because soda pop in the U.S. is pretty universal. Everybody's had an experience with it, or a story, or a time. So we'll get full 3 generations in that want to show the soda that they had with their grandfather or their great grandfather, or the one that they want to now share with their kids. I was out and about just a few months ago, and someone was like, "I'm trying to get my son into craft root beer, just like how I'm into craft beer." So that we can have the shared experience where I get him a 6-pack of root beer, and I get him a 6-pack of root beer, and I have my 6-pack of beer, and we share it together. So just having that and talking about that. So he was super excused. It was in Woodstock, Maryland, in the middle of nowhere, that he recognized my T-shirt. It's like the pop shop.
How cool was that?
It was. I must admit, it was very, very.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Michelle, thank you for joining us today. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed. I know you enjoyed Michelle's interview. I appreciate you being the first video podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was awesome. Thank you for your time. Listeners, that's episode 124 of Frederick Advice Givers, and we are out.